Maybe that may mean moving them to a service role. That's definitely an opportunity, but just don't keep around non-producing producers. It's a drag on the mentality, the morale, everything. All right. So now you might be thinking, gosh, what does an insurance sales agent do? And what I love about this question is so many agencies are now starting to move away from that cradle to grave model, right? Everybody does everything. I think that back in the day, dating myself, that was a much more feasible model with less carriers, less complexity. But in today's world, there is definitely a divergence we see between the sales mind and the service mind. And don't get me wrong, there's a fair amount of service people that want to put their hat in the sales ring. And I'm like, I don't think you do. Like, this is going to be some outbound phone calls. This is going to be a sales goal. It might sound glamorous, but there is a lot to becoming an insurance sales agent. So when I think about, that role, I think of a person who is going to be very focused on lots of phone calls, being on the phone, hopefully getting to a place where they can transact over the phone and quote over the phone. Small commercial, personal lines, you can absolutely do this with the right mindset, with the right tech stack. The second thing that we really do think about with this front is how do we follow up? How many times do we follow up, recycling those opportunities? So for the right person, this is an amazing opportunity. For a person who wants to try to solve everybody's problems, you will not be efficient and effective enough to get the volume of quotes you're looking for. So when you're thinking about doing this, you want somebody that is tech savvy, efficient, sharp, can think on their feet, can follow a process. In fact, a colleague of mine, we used to always debate, do you need a good salesperson or do you need somebody who follows a process? I am leaning on the fact that a great sales agent can follow the agency's sales process. And if they do that, they nail it and, can hit the goals. Somebody who is a great salesperson tends to be all over the place, doing this, doing that, doing everything under the sun. And we really want to focus instead on, really drilling down on certain things. So for me, when I think about what is an insurance sales agent, the first thing I think about is their mission. Their mission is to sell insurance. And I say this because so often I walk into agencies with what I call non-producing producers. These are people that, claim to be in sales, but don't sell nearly enough. And when I think about standard personal lines and commercial lines, and they're only doing sales, I want to be very clear. And this is very relative based on where you are. Like, I'm shooting this podcast, I'm in Florida. Their premiums and insurance are different. But I think, what I'm looking at is at a minimum $50,000 in new business premium every month for personal lines in states that are higher, or you have a really healthy lead source. I would go up to 80 plus. I've seen sales agents hit $100,000. And I think that we have to be very well versed in that. In my mind, we want to sell a client a day. So that would be, if you do the math on that, whatever your averages are, that should be there. Because if you're not selling a client a day, say at a 50% closing ratio, that's 2 client quotes a day. Yeah, it's totally doable, but you might need to go harvest some leads. You might need to go hustle. So on commercial lines, I like to say you need to be more like $60,000 or $80,000 a month, depending on the size commercial you're targeting. For larger commercial, monthly is not the best necessarily metric, but you can do the math and figure your life out. But they only exist to sell. So when they're not selling, I believe in a 3 strikes in a rolling 12 months and you're out. And there needs to be at month 1, an accountability plan. At month 2, a performance improvement plan. Month 3 would be the termination. Because if you're not selling insurance, you're not winning. So you're not winning at your role. Maybe that may mean moving them to a service role. That's definitely an opportunity, but just don't keep around non-producing producers. It's a drag on the mentality, the morale, everything. The next thing I think about with the job description is, what are the core responsibilities? I think every sales agent's core responsibilities includes at least an hour, so 5 hours a week, however you want to slice it up, of prospecting. Inbound agents, which are people who sit behind the desk, they can call lost customers, unsold quotes, referral sources, current customers to thank them, monoline. In commercial lines, you can call certificate requesters. But if someone's buying a home, why not call and introduce yourself to the lender? Introduce yourself to the realtor. These are things that can be just normal and natural. An hour a day of calling people is not crazy. Okay. I also think that they need to be watching their metrics, which is number of leads, percentage of qualified leads, closing ratio, and then the average policies revenue premium per account sold. Those should all be trending in the right direction. Their other responsibilities, in addition to making those outbound phone calls, are to follow your sales process. So I mentioned this earlier. I want to stop on this for a second. It is your responsibility as a leader in the agency who is managing salespeople to have a written sales procedure. And this isn't like quoting procedure. This is sales. This is, how do we build rapport? How do we find their pain points? How do we qualify? How do we get the underwriting information? Are we doing a quote sheet? Are we doing direct entry? What are the questions we need to ask? How do we present the quote? How do we overcome objections? How do we bind? How do we follow up? How do we introduce service? All of these things should be outlined because, one, clarity is kind. Two, you can't hold people accountable to something not written down. And three, it is unbelievably valuable to have your way of selling insurance. If you have a new person come in, this is brilliant. If you have existing team members, watch, their eyes will roll out of their head because they like doing the same thing that they've been doing. Give it 90 days. You will see their performance level up. Okay. The next thing that you want to think about when we follow the sales process is auditing. You as a leader have to audit the sales process. Call coaching, calibrations. I find in insurance, we have such a lack of leadership, such a lack of accountability, such a lack of expectations that we have salespeople that don't have one-on-ones, don't have clear sales goals. Like, I was literally at an agency last week where we're talking about, okay, well, what's the sales goal? The manager didn't know the sales goal. The manager didn't know the sales goal per producer, which means if the manager doesn't, guess what? The salespeople don't either because nobody's being held accountable. It's a recommendation, not a requirement. We need to level up accountability. There should be call calibrations. Their calls are recorded. Should be listening to them. Should be auditing the quotes. Have your carrier reps come in and say, could you quote this and see what you come up with? You will find people need help quoting efficiently, effectively, but most importantly, accurately so that you can place business with your core carriers. I love to call the marketing reps and say, hey, here's 5 you didn't get. Can you quote them and tell us what we did wrong? Wow. Brilliant, right? Now you're taking quotes that maybe went to somebody that you didn't really want to send business to, and you can teach your team how to quote efficiently. I digress. I'm getting a little fired up. I apologize. But it's one of those things where you want performance, but you want to have no accountability in it. And that's never going to work. It's just never works. Leadership is something you live and die by. And in fact, in the United States military, it's 6 to 8 direct reports per person. That's it. Some agencies have like 20 people reporting to one person. And we've never trained that person how to be a leader or a manager because we're not holding them accountable. It's like a whole trickle down effect. And this causes the most amount of chaos, the most amount of dysfunction in an insurance agency. That's when we get called to unmess it up, which we appreciate, but we'd rather not have to do because it was just working. But we still thank you. So I also think that along those same lines of following the sales process is they have to be placing business with their core carriers. They have to be writing business according to agency standard. Otherwise, they do not make commission. And I don't really want to hear about, oh, whoa. No, if the goal is you don't write monoline, we don't write monoline. Don't pay commission on monoline. It's that simple. If the goal is you want them to write certain limits, you're not paying commission if they write below that. I don't care how many people's kids aren't going to eat or the cat's going to die. You have to hold your standards. And guess what? Next one, people will do it. But bad lead, bad client. And you've got to live with this client for a long time. I also think that it is imperative that the teams are following your protocols with CRM tools, management systems, etc., using a rater if that's your choice. Because I see so many insurance agencies where people are not using the tech stack. Oh, I don't have time to update the CRM tool. BS. If it's not in there, it didn't happen. If it's not accurate, I'm making business decisions on that. You choose whose time's more important, yours as the leader or their time, your time. And if they want to have a messy system, they're having messy processes, they don't care enough about their pipeline to be proud of it. It's because they want to hide from it. We're not doing that anymore. So they have to do data entry correctly. They have to put everything in and it should be accurate by the end of the day. I'm okay if during the day you get a little backlog. That's not an issue. But definitely 100% by the end of Friday so that you can prep for a team meeting or a one-on-one. But crappy data in, garbage spread. So garbage in, garbage spreads. It becomes this whole thing where nobody's paying attention to it. You're paying for a system no one's paying attention to. And don't get me started about people who don't want to use personal lines raters. You're absolutely out of your freaking rocker. Okay. Here's the thing. Everybody's, well, they're not accurate. I know. No MVRs have been run. You don't have accurate. This is an indication. And by the way, if you just stop thinking about it rating, it's integration to your carriers. Now, if it becomes a client, it needs to be remarketed. It makes the world faster. Oh, and by the way, the carriers don't store quotes for longer than 30 days. It's in your rater if you want to go win them back. Also, hey, it sprays it out to everybody. So when you find out that they lied about their speeding tickets, now you don't have to go do keying everything in again. I cannot. In 2025, when this podcast launches, if you're not using a rater, you are cray-cray. Now, I understand sometimes people are coastal, still have a rater. You're not rating everything coastal and you're still having auto insurance, okay? And for commercial lines, small BOPs should not be marketed out to 3, 4, 5 different companies. One is fine. One, take it or leave it. I digress. Another thing that an insurance sales agent needs to do is a consistent follow-up process, whatever that looks like for your agency. We believe in 6 follow-ups, ask for the breakup, but you did all this work. You need a follow-up process and people need to hold it. But statistically, you will find the most success at follow-up 5 or 6. So the breakup at the end is key. I'm going to close your file. People pop up and buy insurance for some unknown reason. I also think that part of your sales agent's responsibility is to practice presenting the quote. You know, football players practice, Olympians practice presenting the quote so that it is so good it would win an Olympic gold medal. And some of the newer strategies we're having is video, getting on a screen share and presenting the quote, a video call. Now, when I present this to some people, they literally contort their face like they're having some kind of weird allergic reaction to this. I'm like, yes, get on. It will change things. You will stick out from everybody else. You can go through it. You can tweak the quote in front of them. Your closing ratio goes up 15 points, people, when you do this. But they're like, oh, I don't know. The client doesn't have to be on video, but you can. And stop being so worried about seeing yourself. People see you all the time and you can on Zoom or Teams hide yourself. But you will see such a better result by setting up a video call. And by the way, after COVID, people got used to video calls. Most people are fine. This also lets you avoid sending them the quote to send off to their other people, friends, agents. It will make you 10 times stronger. So let's focus on that. But there needs to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And our recommendations for presenting your quotes is do at least 2 to 3 options. Be surprised how many people take the higher option. You want to get to what we call 4 and score. Maybe one option has an umbrella or life insurance. However you want to slice it up, it will only improve your ratio of premium per client, revenue per client, policies sold per client, more policies, more retention, better quality. So having that quote presentation process and your quoting process of your strategy written down is huge for being an insurance sales agent. The last thing I would say is it is your responsibility to handle post-underwriting matters. I know a lot of agencies like, oh, I don't want to do those. I don't want to do this. Yeah, I know, but it sucks to have the service person be like, hi, nice to meet you. You need a new roof. That's also not cool. There needs to be an effective handoff to service. And by the way, utilizing that time to ask for a referral, cross-sell any unsold quotes, like really diving in to tidying up that opportunity, getting all that you can out of it, and then transferring it to service. So when I think about, what is an insurance sales agent, it's an awesome job. It is so much fun when you're doing it correctly. It has so much opportunity to be amazing. But you do need to have a clear process and you do need to have clear sales management and leadership to ensure that everything's happening the way it should. If it's not, this is when you're going to find a lot of problems. This is when you're going to miss opportunity. And ultimately, we're going to become so B-word busy because our closing ratio is not where it could be that everyone's going to feel like they don't have time for sales training. They do. And that's where we come in. So if you're interested in getting your team these types of tools, an effective quote sheet, an effective sales process, we have 4 ways we work. So 1, our recorded video training in our agency school. You could watch a video a week for $2.95 a month. Hello, this is amazing. And there's a ton of other courses. So for $2.95 a month, that's selling 2 policies worth of commission. You could help and boost your whole sales team. Number 2, we have small group training. Maybe you have somebody that's coming into sales, moving from service to sales. Buy a seat in our small group training. There'll be around 10 to 12 other people that are doing the same thing, and they're getting a live instructor virtual training. And we also have just sales training for your agency. So virtual training and then also in person. So don't delay, especially if this is on your mind for next year. Let's get sales training going in your agency. Clear job descriptions, incentives, sales goals. We'll handle all of that with you. But don't delay, because every week that goes by that you're not investing in your team is policies that aren't being sold that could be. So give us a call. We'd love to talk to you and get your sales team on track.